jumped into my DMs recently to yell at me about not giving a full accounting of what to do with a Bradford pear in my 9-second video about cutting them down because they're terrible. And while that very much feels like first day on the internet kind of stuff, I do appreciate the thought that context matters. So let's talk about it. When you get rid of a Bradford pear, what do you do with the stump? Well, you have a few options. First off, and I want you to hear me well on this, don't commit any crimes. No crimes. Do this on your own property if you want to. Don't go walking down a public street and cutting down trees. Don't go into a parking lot like that original picture and do it. Don't go into someone else's yard and cut down a Bradford pear. Okay, I think they should all go, but I think that we need to be smart about doing it. Don't commit a crime. Do it on your own property. Assuming all that's true and you've made a stump like this, or I recommend it about 2 inches from the ground or closer to the ground, there are some issues. One, this tree's not dead, okay? It's cut down, but those roots are very much still alive, and what trees are really good at doing is surviving. Here's a Bradford pear surviving, okay? This stump was cut off, it was not destroyed, and so the tree re-sprouts. Trees in general will do this, but calorie pears in particular are very resilient. So to prevent this from happening and just getting your Bradford back, there's a few things you can do to get rid of and kill that stump. First off, whether you leave this much or 2 inches, you run into some of the same problems, where again, that vascular system is still alive, and it's still trying to push new buds so that tree can come back to life. And if you look online, most of the guides you find are going to tell you to drill a bunch of holes like this and pack it with salt or a herbicide or something to kill it. And yes, that kind of works. The problem is you're not getting into the vascular system here, right? All of the growing portion of this plant is around the outside. That's where the vascular cambium is. And if you're trying to desiccate it, if you're trying to dry it out, you need to get in contact with that. While it might be beneficial to do this and pack it with some enzymes or something to help break down the stump, that is an option. If you really want to kill it, you need to get some holes or some contact around the outside. Now, I am not a fan of salting the earth, so don't take rock salt or table salt and just put it out there and water it in, because you're going to cause problems. You're going to damage the soil, you're going to kill plants around it. Epsom salt, which is magnesium sulfate, is a little bit safer, but you really want to make sure that after you put anything like that in your stump, you wrap it, whether it's with a tarp or a plastic bag or duct tape or something. Make sure that anything you put in this stump to get rid of it stays where you put it and does not end up in the environment. Also, there are a number of herbicides you can do this with. I'm not going to recommend one because I'll get yelled at more, but you can do a little bit of research and figure out what works. Use them according to the label. That is your contract with the chemical company, and that is the best safe practice for any chemical product. Read the label, follow the instructions specifically, and never, ever in a million years, don't ever, I'm going to zoom in, use something like diesel or bleach or other household cleaners to try to kill a stump like this. You will cause environmental damage, you will cause human impact problems, and you're breaking the law. Don't break the law. Non-chemical root, you can either dig out the stump or use a stump grinder like this. Make sure you get at least 3 or 4 inches below ground level to make sure you kill as much of that root mass as possible, but this is pretty effective. Another option is you could actually take that stump and graft a fruiting pear scion or top wood to it. Now, this is called a top graft, where you're taking these scions or these chunks of fruit wood and grafting them to the Bradford pear stump. It actually makes a pretty good rootstock. So to do this, I'll make a more detailed video on this later, but essentially you got to get around the outside. Remember, that's where that vascular cambium or growing layer is, and make good connection there between the xylem and phloem of your scion wood and of your rootstock. There's a lot of ways to do this. There are a lot of techniques, but it is pretty effective. One thing to consider, though, is that rootstock is still going to try to send up shoots. And until we get really good dominance out of our scion wood, even past that, your Bradford pear is still going to try to grow its little calorie pear branches and reestablish that way. So you're going to have to be, for a while, removing those. Also, this is probably only practical in an urban environment, again, on your property. You could maybe do it in other places in an urban environment with permission, but probably you're restricted to that. In wild settings where Bradford pears have encroached on native ecosystems and have become invasive and have caused ecological damage, it is not practical, and it's probably not the best idea to go add fruiting pears. Those fruiting pears weren't there either. And so in a city setting, that's great. We can provide another food source. In a wild setting, really our goal is to get rid of those invasive pear trees so that native species can get back in and take back over that native ecosystem. Yes, I'm an advocate still, and will forever be, of getting rid of these admittedly pretty but terrible trees. But yeah, don't hurt yourself. If you need a professional to cut it down, get a professional to cut it down. Don't break any laws. Stop committing crimes. And yeah, get rid of your Bradford pear. And quit yelling at me in my DMs.